Hello, everyone. I'm Raga Olga De Silva, or Totally Out Now as you know me. At Speaking Minds, as you know, we continue our focus on sharing powerful stories, insightful lessons, hosting thought leaders, motivational speakers, industry experts, performers in the Other Side series from Speaking Minds, which is India's largest international speakers bureau. I'm the co founder and director of Speaking Minds. In the current stay at home environment, Speaking Minds has continued to offer our clients support for online streaming, through our huge repository of talent that we manage. Motivational seminars, workshops, seminars with master classes, even conferences and summits online. We are also curating a huge amount of B2B talks, as you know. Now, today is going to be wow. You've heard our speaker's voice in a billion devices, giving directions in GPS devices worldwide, and as the original Australian Siri in iPhones. She's an award winning singer, songwriter, author of 2 books. When she's not telling people where to go, she's practicing yoga apparently, or most likely playing ping pong with a 12-year-old son. How wonderful. Please join me in welcoming from Australia, now living in New York City, entertainer, author, and the only woman men will take directions from. Karen, welcome. Where are you
Hel-
right now?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not authorized to answer that question.
So, have you been to India? Is my first question.
Have I been to India? Oh my goodness, not yet.
Okay, this gave me goosebumps, Karen, hearing that voice. I just kind of
That
wanted to look
voice.
that voice. Oh, how amazing to see you! Welcome, welcome, welcome to our
Thank you
the
for
other side
having me.
series.
This is going to be so fun.
Okay, I just want to know this voice. Like seriously, when did this journey start?
Well, what can I tell you? Let me tell you that my parents would say that I started talking when I was about 9 months old and never stopped. And that they would only know that I was asleep because it was quiet. So I was a talker always, and then end up recording a voice system that ends up all over the world in a billion devices. It's crazy.
How amazing! How many? It's a billion devices, is it?
Over a billion. Yeah.
Oh my God. And so
I
what
know.
happens when you sit in a car and you are turning on the GPS? What happens then?
When I'm
Wait.
talking to myself and telling myself where to go, where to go, what to do, I have so many stories. It is kind of crazy. Well, my home is in New York City, and my husband and my son and I, we don't own a car, so we're really only we get around on public transport usually, and we walk and or we fly. Not right now, of course, but when we travel and we rent a car, that's when we'll occasionally have the GPS or the navigation on, and that's when we will have some adventures where I'll really be talking to myself.
So what happens when you hear yourself? I just want to know. I'm curious to know.
When I'm giving
When
directions to
yes,
myself,
yourself, yeah.
it's so weird. I mean, it's been a long time, but it's still weird. It's at one point when our son is 12, but when he was much younger, I wondered if he thought that everybody's mummy was in the voice in their own car.
Did you ever ask him that?
I must ask him that. I will ask him that.
And so what happens when you ask yourself online on Siri and you don't get a response?
So, we have a voice assistant device in the home, and we also have, I also have, Siri on devices all over the place, like we all do. And I am the only one in our household. Siri does not understand. Alexa does not understand. I can ask a question and I'll get no response. And then my husband or my son will ask the same question and immediately get an answer. I don't get it, but it's just what we laugh about it because it happens every time.
Oh, how amazing! Because Alexa does that to me as well, just so that you know. I
Oh,
asked
good.
for
Oh, I
George
don't feel so
Michael.
alone.
Yeah, I asked for George Michael and he plays Elton John. I don't know why. Where's the
Oh,
connection?
no. George Michael's the best.
Mostly, I don't understand you. Can you try again? And I kind of try 20 times and then I say, fine, I'll go back to Siri. But Karen, this is very interesting. So, how, apart from having a powerful voice, which we all know, which we will listen to today, I want to know, how did this journey start from being a performer, entertainer, and then finding yourself in such devices? I'm sure it
Well,
wasn't easy.
I had done a lot of voiceover work for many years and singing on jingles and commercials. I'm a singer and songwriter. And I got an audition. I had moved to New York City, and the brief from the agent was they were looking for a native Australian female voiceover artist living in the northeast of the United States. And I saw that description. I was like, the description of me. So I got the job. I went to the audition. I got the job. And they said, we're going to need to take you to a town called Ithaca in upstate New York. And we are going to need to record for 50 hours.
Oh, wow.
And so 50 hours, and we will need to have you there for 3 weeks because we only want to record a maximum of 4 hours a day. We don't want your voice to sound tired or fatigued in any way. And off I went. The script was massive, and we recorded this incredible voice system. And can I tell you the technical part?
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Okay, excellent. So they wanted to capture every combination of syllables possible. So they could chop that up and create a voice system based on my speaking voice. And that's what they did.
So, because I've been intrigued, in India, we have a lot of Indian places, right? Like Hindi in the Devanagari script. And it's fascinating. It will say, Yahan se jana, it speaks in Hindi, in the Devanagari language. And I'm thinking, like, how does this foreign voice speak in an Indian voice and gives directions in an Indian language or the local language?
Very, very clever team of engineers figured out how all of those syllables would be put together.
Wow. So what came first, Siri or the GPS girl?
Well, it's all from the same voice system.
Okay.
And the voice system first popped up in GPS devices, those standalone ones that you would plug in your car before they even put them into the dashboard of the car or put them into our phones. So that's what happened first.
Wow. So did you ever think that you would be so popular that your voice would reach billions?
Okay, so when I was a little girl growing up in Mackay, North Queensland, Australia, middle of nowhere, well, very close to the Great Barrier Reef, a beautiful part of the world. But when I was growing up, I dreamed so long and hard that my voice, my singing voice and my songs would be on everybody's lips and in car radios and be all over the world.
Oh, wow.
But apparently my big, massive dreams, somewhere in there, my energy wasn't specific enough because it ended up my speaking voice was everywhere and not yet my songs and my singing voice quite how I imagined.
So did that happen in New York later? Like your singing voice also became popular as much as your
Yes,
speaking
well,
voice?
I have 9 albums I've recorded and written a lot of songs that I have recorded and released, and some of my music has been on television shows, and that's my true gift is as a songwriter.
As I understand, when we've spoken in the past, we've known each other for a while now, Karen. I remember one thing you said to me, that your fans feel that they're very close to you. They feel very attached to you, and you receive a huge amount of fan mail. Can you just talk to us about that?
Well, social media makes it so easy and wonderful, doesn't it? And people can connect with me. I have my own community now on Patreon, and I have my social media community, and it's so lovely to have people become aware of me somehow or have a connection to my voice in some way. And then they reach out and will tell me about an incident or the wonderful trips we take together. I've had people reach out. This guy called Ryan said, "Oh, Karen, last weekend we went to my cousin's wedding. I mean, my voice navigated him in the rental car, but he is talking to me as if we were together and I was actually there." It is so weird.
Karen, I find this super powerful. It's like, for me personally, I mean, not that I own a car here, but every time I sit in a car, rented car, that there's somebody else who we have no idea who this person is, guiding us, navigating us. To me, it's almost like I draw a parallel to, real life coaches or people trainers and performers who have such a significant role they play in our life. And I think that's the role you play. Sometimes when I'm driving, and I used to drive quite a bit when I lived in New Zealand, and I used to have a conversation with this person. I honestly did. All through my good times and bad times, when I had a
Right.
terrible time, I was saying, come on, take me there. And, how do I get there? And why is my life not going in the direction that I want it to go? Those conversations that you have with your friend or someone, I used to have with you. And I'm so pleased.
Oh, oh. Well, it's like having a constant companion, isn't it?
It is. It is. So I
Yeah.
just, I just want to know that when people know that part about you, that they know that you are that voice, how do they typically react?
How do I react?
How do they react? How do people
Oh,
react?
people get very excited. And I think it is because, as you say, people make a connection, personal connection with that voice. And it makes sense because sometimes we'll be on a road, we take a wrong turn, we might be alone, it could be dark at night, it could be raining, and we could be lost. We could be feeling very vulnerable. And that voice of companion, that voice of comfort, that voice of reason is with us, and it makes us feel, I think, safer in some way. And I know that certainly that's been an experience for me when I have been, not quite on the right road, to have that companionship. And I think that it makes sense that we do develop a relationship with those voices. And I feel privileged actually that people will come and share some pretty personal things with me, uh, after I speak on a stage and share the message of recalculating and share my story, and they will come and then feel comfortable enough to share pretty vulnerably with me.
So I've also heard that sometimes you got accosted by your fans. Is it in a good way? The word accosting is negative, right?
Well, it depends on the environment, but I find that across the board, everywhere, everyone, I think people are very uplifted by what I represent or the story, and I find it to be a very positive experience when I meet people.
So have you faced roadblocks yourself?
Well, I, like everybody else on the planet, I am a human being. So by definition, yes, plenty of roadblocks.
So where did the GPS, this beautiful coaching that you do on finding your inner voice or recalibrating, the GPS girl. So how did you come up with that idea, and how are you helping people with that, through that?
Well, quite a while ago now, 10 years ago now, I made this connection between directions in the car and directions in life and business. And I realized that the word recalculating could be used as a metaphor. And, when we're in the car and we hear the GPS say recalculating, if we've taken a wrong turn, in a few quick steps, we are back on track, usually headed toward our destination. And I thought in life, when we take a wrong turn, sometimes we'll be meandering on a back road, metaphorically, sometimes for years. If only we use the power of recalculating, being able to start again at any moment. It's like a do-over, like the
So
ability to shift the energy. It is for ourselves. And I created the 5 directions for recalculating, this 5-step process to navigate change, and started to share that message and share my story. And it's taken me to many places around the world.
sure.
And it's been really sharing the tools that I've used in my own life to keep going no matter what.
I'm going to come back to more on these questions. And in the meantime, can I just read some of the comments that we're getting?
For
I know
sure.
we've got a fantastic audience today. And I'm just going to read. Shreya Mistry says, love, 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 Raga. Shreya, lovely to have you here. Manoj Gursahani says, Global Voice, what an interesting guest, he says. Thank you, Manoj. She is super interesting. We haven't even started yet, really. Kruti Parekh says, hey. And Josh says, this is amazing. Okay, let me just read. Anirban Bhattacharya says, with the advent of tech, the voice has become more evolved from being mechanical to real human voices. AI is now the new friend. So, any comments on that, Karen?
You know, AI is the new friend. I think it is happening for a lot of people. And what I hear a lot is about children, that children love to grab their parents' phone and ask Siri, for example, questions all day long. It's like a constant companion. And I find it pretty incredible that that's the case.
It's interesting because that's the next feedback that we've got from Idens B says Karen must be feeling good being the navigator for literally the entire mankind. And he's saying it's an interesting conversation. Thanks, Venkat. I know it's Venkat there. So yeah, that's something that actually every time I've spoken with you, Karen, every time I've connected you over emails or conversations, I feel what a huge responsibility. Does it feel like a responsibility to you?
I think it's fortunate. It's very much in line with the kind of values that I have anyway. So in some ways, it feels like kind of alignment, divine alignment, that I would be a person whose voice is in so many places, and that I am someone who has a message to share and something to do in the world that helps to uplift humanity. And I think it just lines up with that. Yes, it was someone else might say, oh, Karen, it was a random voiceover job. Okay. I'm not attached to one way or another, but for me personally, as you ask, it does feel like it's really in alignment.
And in alignment with who you are as a person.
That's right.
Yeah. And you think that, what we spoke about a little earlier about the inner GPS, you think we can change directions? If we are like in a car, we're going in some direction, we've lost our way, you think we can come back? Is it always possible or sometimes difficult?
Well, I do think so. And I think the biggest piece is being willing. It's difficult if somebody is unwilling to see a different perspective or to want to improve something, but to do with their lives. But if there is a willingness, that opens really a limitless potential.
Sure. So you're saying the intent has to be there for
Absolutely.
it to manifest, right? So you spoke about tools, right? That you provide people tools through your workshops. That's the most important thing, right? When we lose direction in life, what I find is lacking is that we don't know what to do sometimes. We go through therapists, we go through our friends, we go through a whole lot of experiences before we understand or know whether we can cope or we cannot cope. So for you, you're saying that there are some ready tools you give through these sessions.
Well, I like to remind us that we all have what I like to call our inner GPS, our inner sense of self. Some people like to call this their intuition or their gut or their instincts or their heart. There are many words for what I refer to as the inner GPS, but it's that inner sense of knowing what is right for ourselves. And sometimes we're connected to it, and sometimes, and a lot of the time, we are not. But I like to speak about this because I find that with practice, we can really connect with our inner GPS, and it always sends us the right direction for ourselves.
So what happens if you know instinctively that is the right thing for you to do, but you don't follow that?
Well, we all have been in that situation, and then there are consequences. And sometimes we will listen to everybody around us telling us how the thing that we think we want to do is not a good idea. And then we listen to everyone around us, and oh, they must know much better than I know about myself. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Absolutely. But how many times I do it. I have done it in the past all the time, where I've gone with what everybody else thinks is much better for me than what I think is right for me. And then time will pass and we'll realize, oh, if only I had listened to myself and not to all those other people. And then there are those times where everyone around you is saying, no, 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 don't do that. And you know, think, I know this is right. And you do it and people can't believe it. And then it was right. So I think it's a learning. We're all here learning as human
Yeah,
beings.
sure. But Karen, in a work environment or in a business environment, you're not the only person, right? So what if there are multiple partners in a business? So there are two or three or four or five or six, and each one may have a different kind of gut feel. How do you balance that out? So it's not just about you, then it's about other people. And similarly, in a corporate environment where you have, maybe your team members, the team players are the stakeholders, let's say, are multiple stakeholders. So how do you then follow that gut instinct?
Well, imagine you create a culture in your organization where this is the kind of conversation that is happening. Imagine having an executive team who are clear about their own values, about what is personally important to them, and individuals who are connected with their inner GPS, who take the time then to communicate with each other on a level of doing what they all know is for the common good. I mean, this is the kind of organization that I think these times are calling for and wanting to see thrive, this kind of culture.
So we'll come back to more. Karen, I'm going to take a little relief for us. Can you sing something for us? I know you have such a beautiful
Oh,
voice. I thought, why not? Why not listen to the other side of you, which is the main side of you?
let me think. What am I going to sing for you? Okay. This is a song called The River of My Life. Okay. The way the water flows away, it's almost making me ashamed. There are so many days descending in years. I think I'm ready now to say, I wanna be somewhere else, doing something else with somebody else. I see the river of my life. I wanna be somewhere else with someone else doing something else. I see the river passing by.
Wow. Wow. Did you write this?
I did. I
Wow.
did. I
How
did.
amazing. I can just see you as a person being, not being, trying not to judge, but I mean, depth. That's what I see, right? Depth in your voice, depth in your thinking, depth in your being, Karen. So coming back to this, thank you for doing that for us. So I'm just like, sometimes there's no words to express.
Oh,
Yeah. So Karen, what is important? What is your own, who's your idol? I mean, where do you get all this inspiration from?
oh, my idol is Olivia Newton-John, and I was 7 years old, and I was in my family living room, and on the television came the most important and influential person in the whole world, Olivia Newton-John. And when I saw her, my life changed. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to become a professional singer and move to America. And she has inspired me tremendously throughout my life.
How amazing. I love her as well. Karen, that brings me to the next question is what happens when people don't have that kind of a moment or inspiration? Where do they get the inspiration from? Where do they seek it?
I see. It's interesting. I talk to a lot of people in my travels, and there's a lot of talk about purpose and what we're here on the planet for. And I believe everybody does know. Often when you're younger, people say, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I really want to do. I believe everyone does know. And it is about allowing ourselves to peel off those layers or release or let go of the fears and the resistance of listening to our true voice, our inner GPS,
Sure.
and the fear of what if we express what we really want to do and it's not accepted by others,
Right.
not supported, or that I go for it and I don't make it. I don't
Yeah.
achieve what I want to achieve. And I think that it's a tragedy for
Yeah.
a human being to be trapped in that way.
That's a trap, right? The fear traps us.
Oh,
Yeah, our
and
own
we
fear.
we operate as if it's real.
Yeah.
I know I do.
Yep.
I am practicing always to remember that fear isn't real. Fear is
Fantastic.
fear, but
Yeah.
it's not actually real. It's what I make it mean in the moment.
Isn't that the most limiting thing, Karen, in our lives? Fear.
But it's so liberating when
Yeah,
we become aware of that.
exactly. So when you use the word recalculate, right? To me, recalculate means that you have calculated something, it hasn't worked, so now you're recalculating. So are we saying that you come into our life in a corporate environment when I'm already on a journey? That journey could be working, not working for me, and I'm thinking, let me restart that journey. That there is potential for me to look at new opportunities, new learnings, new challenges. Is that where you come in?
Where I come from is that there's always another level. And I am somebody who is a lifelong learner, and I have a growth mindset, and I don't think there needs to be anything wrong to recalculate. I think it can be a case of using that tool of letting go of what did or did not happen on a daily basis or on a moment to moment basis, during this particular time in the world. There's the uncertainty is really challenging, and it's different in different countries at different stages of the pandemic. It's different in different communities and families and organizations. But sometimes we need to uh, reset ourselves once an hour.
Wow.
Sometimes it is a day by day situation in a time of crisis. And to be able to presence and represence ourselves. And I think it's about maintaining or returning to an even emotional state, because we get too high or we get too low, and it takes us out. It takes us out of being able to be present, of being able to focus and be aware. So I think that recalculating is a practice that
Sure.
really serves us, especially if we're interested in living a full, meaningful life.
So you think we can create balance in our lives if we have lots
Definitely.
of balance, and so that to me is also recalculating, right?
But it's all a practice.
It is. So it comes with practice. If we have, it is. So you give tools, we practice that, and we can get ourselves back to wherever we want to be. And it keeps changing, right? You keep recalculating your life, right?
It keeps changing, and I mean the journey of life is filled with opportunities to navigate change. I mean, it is we think we know where things are going to go, but we really don't know.
Seriously, and look at the situation right now, the pandemic, where most of the countries are in lockdown. We are working from home. All of us are now in a situation where there's so much of uncertainty. We have no idea. You and I wouldn't be able to answer what happens tomorrow, right? I
the
mean, give,
the and the entire world is
yeah,
recalculating, and in fact,
correct.
I have been saying for a while, I'm starting to feel a little bit more normal over to into our third month of lockdown, I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with these new guidelines and this new way, and more accepting too that this is what it is. The shock, I think, has lifted. But I am still saying that for many people, it's too soon to recalculate. We're in a phase I've been calling pre-calculate, what you do before you really navigate change, like to get onto a level of creating a strong foundation, going back to basics, taking care of our health and well-being and our loved ones around us, feeling secure, just basics, so that we can then feel strong enough when the time comes and when the timing is right to recalculate. Recalculating is an active process. So that's why I have been discussing recalculate.
Fantastic. So, Karen, basically what you're saying is this too shall pass, right? It's not permanent, because a lot of people are beginning to worry. And then the kind of messages I get on my social media, and when they ask me about bringing a new guest on the show, and they say, can we talk about what happens? Will this continue? What happens if it continues for another year or 2 years or 3 years? What happens to us, to our jobs, to our families?
Right.
So, what you're saying is there is hope. Use this time for whatever it is to build your energies, right? Whatever that is for us.
Well, and it might be like really back to basics. It might be, I'm going to take a nap because I can't function. I don't feel like being productive, whatever it might be. I am one of the most goal-oriented productivity kind of people out there. For weeks, I could not create anything. I felt so ineffective. But we are in a crisis. It is okay to not have it together. And this will continue in some form for longer than we would like. And it can still be a day by day or week by week situation. Please, anybody listening right now, be gentle with yourself. Be very gentle with yourself. And we can only control what we can control. And for me, I've really been looking at, well, I know I can control being able to meditate every day. I can control what I'm eating and drinking and hydrating enough and eating more leafy greens than anything else. And I can control going for a walk. I can control these very, very basic parts. I can control looking at our finances and pausing anything that's unnecessary right now,
Right.
and applying for different financial opportunities of assistance that I never imagined I would be applying for in my life. But there are definitely steps we can all take on that fundamental level, so we can do what we can in our own power and in our own control to handle what's happening in the short term without knowing what's happening in the long term.
Fantastic. I have a very important question. Before that, I'm going to read some more comments here. Raj Singh Rawat, thank you, says one more gem in Raga show. Thank you. Josh Kruner says very touching. That's after you performed. And Josh Kruner himself is a very good singer, performer from India. He's a beautiful voice himself. That's a big thing coming from Josh. Aiden says mesmerizing voice mirrors her personality. I agree, Venkat. So Hema Mehta says, so true, time to look within. And thank you, Hema. I think that's what Karen touched upon. Aiden's B says, one question. Did Karen ever envisage that she will become this voice? And what is that one advice she would like to give to younger generation who are growing up with technology?
Did I ever envisage? No, I did not. I mean, who could have imagined it? When I was growing up, there was no such thing as a GPS. So no, I didn't. But I did, as I said before, I dreamed of being on stages and screens around the world as a singer and songwriter. And I have done some of that, certainly a lot of that, but more to come in the future. And the second part of that question was advice for the younger generation growing up with technology. As convenient as it is to kind of lose ourselves in tech sometimes and not necessarily have the kind of face-to-face, eye-to-eye connection with others, I would say that even though it seems like this is what old people do, being able to communicate and have a face-to-face, voice-to-voice, eye-to-eye conversation, and to be able to develop that ability will make you so far ahead
Sure.
in whatever you choose to do in the future. So I would say to absolutely prioritize being able to do that, as uncomfortable as that may seem.
Fantastic, Karen. Karen, I have a question. So, we make decisions in life. Those decisions have consequences, like you said earlier, right? Those choices have consequences. Now, you became this voice of Australia's Siri, and you became the voice of GPS girl, right? You're the GPS girl. Has that ever come in the way of your life and your future as a professional? Did that limit you?
It's an interesting question. I think it's such a fun, uplifting hook that brings joy to people that I've only seen it as a positive. So I would have to say, not that I really think,
Fantastic. See, this is what I really admire about you, that no matter what I'm saying to you, I'm throwing what you call as a googly, right? It's like those curved curved ones. But you're just positive no matter what. Because to me, I have met a lot of people in my life, and I work with actors and celebrities as well. And some say that I wish I had not done that role because I have boxed myself in a certain role, and that has limited me in what I have done with my life. And that's a perspective as well. It may have, maybe they haven't seen that because of that particular role they have actually achieved the success that they have achieved, right?
right.
So
Well, I think that the positive of being a voice in a billion devices, I just think that it really is something to be used for good.
yeah,
And I feel like being able to look at it from a satellite view, I have a much bigger opportunity to share not only my music and my singing and my voice and those gifts, but also a message that brings light to the world. And I think that it's absolutely been an opportunity to do that.
I want to hear the GPS girl, and I'm sure a lot of our audience who's logged in today wants to hear the GPS girl. Please say to us, speak to us in the GPS
Okay, all right. So some of the things they had me record were things like this, were at the next intersection, turn left. Oh, I forgot to say, close your eyes if make sure you're not driving, but close your eyes when I'm speaking, and then that's a little bit more fun. And what else did they have me record? They had me record, of course, recalculating, and then
I love it.
oh, you have reached your destination.
I love this one. I remember, Karen, when we were first having this conversation, and you were on screen, and we had Milan Soman, our other partner. Nicola was there, the other partner. And I remember we asked you to say this, you reached your destination. Physically, Milan just fell. He was so
Oh, it
shocked.
was so fun.
He just had a fall. He said, "This is like,"
Right.
you suddenly look around. You think, "What?" you know. So I'm sure you have that kind of an impact on a whole lot of millions or billions right now. So I want to know, how does your family feel about it? And I know you've touched upon your son. How does your husband feel about it? That he's surrounded by Karen all
Oh, he can't escape me, right? And the bossy voice. Oh, well, my husband and I'm very fortunate. I got to marry the love of my life, and he is as you know in, entertained by the fact that this is the case as anybody. So no, we have a lot of fun with it. He can't escape me though.
I know, never will. So Nabil Masoodi, thank you for joining in, Nabil. He says we need to discipline, confidence, repetition, practice, and struggle. Thank you so much. So I'm just trying to understand that we need discipline, confidence, repetition, practice, and struggle. So I'm assuming that it's a constant state of, you have to focus, you have to be disciplined, you have to have the confidence in doing whatever you're doing, repeat the process, keep practicing. That's the way I'm reading this, Nabil. Thank you. So, Karen, what is it that one big message that you give through your workshops?
Oh. The one thing, if you
Yeah,
remember nothing else
yeah.
from our conversation, is that it is never too late to recalculate.
I love it.
It is
Never,
never too late to recalculate.
every guest I have, there's one magic that they bring, and they'll say something like this. So it's, guys, never too late to recalculate. Let's say that.
And
Never too
it
late
is
to
never too
recalculate.
late to recalculate. And that's right. And what that means is there is always another step you can take. Even when things are dire and you think it's just such a mess, take a deep breath and know that there is always something that you can do.
Beautiful to have you today with us, Karen. This has really, really been beautiful. Is there any message, anything else you want to share before I end this session? Audience, any more questions? It's a great opportunity. Please feel free. We'll be around for a couple of minutes. But Karen, I've just really enjoyed. I've always loved talking to you, and always loved
Oh,
communicating. But the fact is that just the way you put it across, it gives me so much hope. It gives me so much confidence that today may not be as good as I was expecting it to be, but I just feel that my tomorrow is going to be far better. And
I'm
that's the
so
way.
happy to hear that. I'm so happy to hear that. And, in this time when we can't always be in person, live on stage in a room and with people, fortunately, we have opportunities to be together virtually and to share remotely. I've done a lot of online presentations and concerts, and I've been speaking and sharing the message of recalculating and pre-calculating and listening to our inner GPS. And in, as much as it isn't how we would all have planned it and what we would have wanted to have happen, there have been some true benefits, and the opportunity to be in one part of the world and then present to people in another part of the world that I would not have connected with in this way. I mean, there's just so much scope. So I think, again, to keep our focus on what the benefits are really helps.
Audience, if anybody is interested, you may ask a question and Siri will respond in the Siri's voice. Last opportunity to ask. Idens be saying never too late to recalculate might be the strategy for post-COVID-19 era.
For
I
sure.
agree. For sure. I agree. I love that sentence, and I'm going to that phrase. I'm going to post it all around.
Awesome.
Hema says, awesome, so lovely. Josh Bruno also says, it's never too late to recalculate. I love it. That's a real powerful, powerful one-line message I've heard in this time. And anyone wants to ask a question to Siri? Let us know. Don't go away yet. As I thank, okay, let's see what's come up. This is my daughter. Okay, Madhu Ranjit Singh says, this is my daughter, Anaya, who's 9 years old.
Oh, lovely.
He says,
Hi, Anaya.
okay,
How to know how and what to recalculate? Well, I do look at how things feel. So if you are feeling upset or frustrated, or you are angry, or you have a case of the I don't feel like it's, or there's dissatisfaction with how things are, then that is your indicator that it is time to recalculate. And then I do have a 5-step process, which I'll send to you, Rugged, to put on the Facebook page,
sure,
so that people can read that. Come to the Facebook page and at Speaking Minds, and you will find that 5-step process.
Absolutely, absolutely. And anyone interested in inviting Karen to, run a workshop, host a workshop, please let us know. Always happy to connect you to Karen. And Aidan says, can you say this message in the Siri voice? And I'm assuming he's saying your phrase.
It is never too late to recalculate.
It. Madhu says, Anaya, her 9-year-old says, Anaya just loves your voice. She just speaks sometimes to listen to your voice.
Oh, Anaya! Beautiful, beautiful.
Anyone else wants any bit of this? Let us know.
Oh, and I have a the song that I sang earlier, Raga. I have a music video and recording of that song. So I will send the link over to you if people are interested in hearing the whole song produced and performed. And I just learned how to edit music videos, so I have a music video of that song.
Would love to listen to it, Karen. I'm going to say thank you to you, but I know in the end you will sing some more lines for us before we end the session. But in the meantime, I will end my part of the session, Karen, before you leave. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Karen, first of all. Thank you to the audience. I have to thank someone really special, Nicola Fenton, who sits behind the screen and she does all this curation for us and management to keep us alive and Facebook alive. And thank you, Nicola. And tomorrow is Thursday. We have someone very interesting. We're going to talk about what happens after a air crash. How do you survive it, and what happens to you? And a beautiful story by Tulsi that we'll bring to you tomorrow at 8:30 India time and 4 p.m. London time. Karen, thank you very much. Karen, would you leave your beautiful voice with us?
I wanna be somewhere else, doing something else with somebody else. I see the river passing by.
Thank you so much, Karen. Lots and lots of love to you. Stay well, stay safe. Thank you, Raj Singh Rawat, for wonderful things. Josh, all the audience. And Speaking Minds is here, always here. Let us know if you have any queries, any requests for wonderful people like Karen Jacobsen. And we will see you tomorrow. Thank you, Karen. And I'm on social media if you want to reach out. You know that already. Thank you. Bye.